You smell it before you see it. That distinctive blend of fresh rubber, factory new leather, and the sharp chemical tang of pristine synthetic materials. Your hands shake slightly as you lift the lid off the pristine white box, tissue paper crackling like autumn leaves. Inside, the Air Jordan 4 bread sits exactly as you remember from 1989. Except this time, you have $350 to spend instead of begging your parents for Christmas money you knew they didn't have. The world sees this as nostalgia marketing. Grown adults spending mortgage payments on shoes they'll never wear, waiting in digital queues that crash websites, camping overnight for limited releases like teenagers. Critics call it manufactured scarcity, preying on disposable income and misplaced priorities. But they're missing something fundamental about what's actually happening in your chest when you hold that shoe. This isn't about footwear. This is about time travel. Dr. Clay Routledge, a psychological scientist at North Dakota State University, has spent over a decade studying nostalgia's impact on human behavior. His research reveals that nostalgic experiences don't just make us feel good. They literally reconstruct our sense of self-continuity. When millennials hunt down their childhood sneakers, they're not buying shoes. They're purchasing proof that the 8-year-old who wanted these so desperately still exists somewhere inside the 34-year-old paying rent and wondering where their dreams went. You remember the first time you saw them. Maybe it was Michael Jordan floating through the air in the playoffs, or your older cousin who seemed impossibly cool wearing them to school while you wore whatever your mom found on sale at Payless. The shoe represented everything you couldn't have but desperately wanted: style, acceptance, a ticket into a world that felt just out of reach. Now you can buy 10 pairs if you want. But somehow that freedom makes the acquisition feel both more meaningful and completely hollow. Dr. Krystine Batcho from Le Moyne College discovered that people experiencing major life transitions show dramatically higher levels of nostalgic behavior. Her studies found that nostalgia serves as a psychological anchor during periods of uncertainty or identity questioning. When millennials hit their 30s and realize their careers aren't what they dreamed, their relationships require more work than movies suggested, and their bodies hurt from sleeping wrong, vintage sneakers offer something profound: a return to a version of themselves that still believed anything was possible. But here's where it gets complex. You're not actually trying to become 8 years old again. You're trying to integrate that 8-year-old's hopes with your current reality. The sneaker becomes a bridge between who you were and who you're still becoming. Watch someone open a box of retro Jordans they've been hunting for months. The ritual is almost sacred. They photograph the box from every angle. They try them on and stare at their feet in the mirror. They post pictures with captions about childhood dreams and full-circle moments. Then, more often than not, they carefully replace them in the box and store them away. This behavior baffles outsiders. Why buy shoes you won't wear? But you understand. Wearing them would make them ordinary. The magic isn't in ownership, it's in the possibility they represent. As long as they stay pristine in their box, they maintain their power as symbols of recovered potential. Research by Dr. Hal Hirschfield at UCLA shows that people who feel connected to their future selves make better long-term decisions. But his work also reveals something unexpected. People who maintain connection to their past selves report higher life satisfaction and stronger identity coherence. The sneaker collection becomes a tangible timeline, each pair representing a different moment when you thought you knew who you were becoming. The most obsessive collectors often display what psychologists call completionist behavior, the drive to acquire every variation, every colorway, every release from a particular era. Dr. Stephanie Sarkis, who studies obsessive-compulsive patterns, explains that collecting behaviors often emerge during periods when people feel lack of control in other life areas. The sneaker hunt provides clear objectives, measurable progress, and guaranteed rewards in a world where career advancement and relationship success feel frustratingly ambiguous. But there's a darker layer underneath the nostalgia. Many millennials are chasing sneakers from an era when they believed their futures were limitless. Before student loan debt, before the housing crisis, before they understood that working hard doesn't always lead to success. The shoes represent a time when they thought they'd definitely be rich, definitely be famous, definitely matter in ways that haven't materialized. Dr. Jennifer Akers' research at Stanford found that nostalgic consumption often peaks during what she calls meaning-making moments, periods when people reassess their life choices and search for evidence that their journey has purpose. The sneaker isn't just a shoe. It's proof that the child who wanted it grew up to become someone capable of getting it, even if everything else feels uncertain. This explains why the most popular retros aren't always the most technically advanced or aesthetically perfect shoes. They're the ones attached to the most powerful childhood memories. The Air Jordan. 3 white cement matters because it represents 1988, when anything seemed possible. The Nike Air Max 90 infrared transports you to 1990, when having the right shoes felt like the most important thing in the world. And maybe it was, because it represented belonging, aspiration, hope. The secondary market feeds this psychology perfectly. StockX and GOAT have turned sneaker buying into stock trading, complete with price graphs, market analysis, and investment terminology. Your childhood obsession has become a legitimate asset class, validating the 8-year-old who insisted these shoes were important. The market agrees. They are important. They're worth hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. But here's the counterintuitive truth that most miss. The millennials most obsessed with acquiring their childhood sneakers often report the least satisfaction from actually getting them. Dr. Elizabeth Dunn's research on hedonic adaptation shows that anticipated happiness from acquiring desired objects typically exceeds actual happiness once acquired. The chase provides more psychological benefit than the catch. This creates an endless cycle. Each acquisition brings a moment of completion, followed by emptiness, driving the search for the next release, the next grail, the next piece of childhood that might finally fill the gap. The sneaker community understands this implicitly, which is why release calendars, upcoming drops, and rumored retros generate more excitement than current inventory. The most successful sneaker collectors eventually recognize what they're really collecting. Moments when they felt unlimited potential. Each shoe represents a specific belief about who they were going to become. The obsession isn't about footwear. It's about maintaining connection to every version of yourself that still has dreams worth chasing, which reveals something profound about human psychology. We don't actually want to go back to childhood. We want proof that childhood's best parts, the hope, the possibility, the unshakable belief that tomorrow will be better than today, survived the transition into adulthood. The sneaker sitting in its box becomes evidence that the dreamer and the realist can coexist in the same person. In the end, that Air Jordan 4 isn't just a shoe. It's a time capsule containing every belief you held about who you were going to become, waiting patiently to remind you that person is still in there, still dreaming, still possible. The box protects more than pristine leather and rubber. It protects the part of you that refuses to settle for who you think you're supposed to be instead of who you still might become.